Hello everyone and welcome to today's video. In today's video I'm going to be talking about the third conditional, which is also known as the past unreal conditional. Now, a while ago I released a video talking about the second conditional, the present unreal conditional. So if you need to refresh your memory or simply want an introduction into the topic of unreal conditionals, consider checking it out. But basically we use the third conditional to talk about imaginary situations in the past and to speculate what would have been the result, what would have happened in that particular situation. So let me give you an example. Let's imagine that yesterday you had an exam and you didn't study for the exam and you didn't pass the exam. Well, it's impossible for you to travel into the past, so the only thing that you can do is imagine. You can't change the past, but you can imagine what would have happened if you had done the opposite. So for example, I can say that if you had studied, probably you would have passed the exam. So here, with the third conditional, the conjugation of the verb is very, very important. We use the past perfect, so had plus a past participle. And the past perfect within a conditional sentence basically indicates that the situation is imaginary, that this didn't actually happen, that in fact the opposite was true. So in this particular case, since the conditional is affirmative, we can assume the opposite, that in reality you didn't study for the exam. And similarly in the result we use a modal, have, and a past participle to also indicate that this didn't actually happen. This was not actually the result. I am simply imagining what would have happened if you had done things differently. You would have passed the exam if you had studied, but you didn't, and you didn't. And similarly, in the second sentence, it says, if I had had enough money last year, I would have traveled more. So again, we have had as an auxiliary and had also as the main verb. And the past perfect again is indicating that this is an imaginary situation, that in reality, the opposite was true, that I didn't have any money and I didn't travel. I am simply imagining what would have happened. I would have traveled if the opposite had been true, if I had had money. And in the next example, it says, if it hadn't rained yesterday, we would have had a picnic. My friends and I would have had a picnic. And so again, the past perfect is indicating that the situation is imaginary. But in this case, since the imaginary situation is negative, we can assume the opposite, that in reality it did rain and we didn't have a picnic because of the rain. I am simply imagining what would have happened if it hadn't rained. We would have had the picnic if it hadn't rained. Pay attention to the contraction. As with any other sentence in English, many modal auxiliaries or auxiliaries in general have specific contractions. So in this case, would have can contract to would have, and the auxiliary had can also contract with pronouns as apostrophe D. So in the fourth example, it says, if I'd woken up earlier today, I might have arrived to work on time. So again, the reality is that I didn't wake up early and I didn't arrive to work on time. I am simply imagining or speculating what might have happened if I had done things differently, if I had woken up earlier. In this particular case, I used the modal might, and basically the modal might is like saying that something is possible. So basically it's like saying that if I had woken up earlier, maybe I would have arrived to work on time. And in the final example, let's imagine that my sister visited for the holidays last year, but she got lost on the way here and she couldn't call me because she didn't have her cell phone. So this sentence says that if she'd had her cell phone, she could have called me. So again, you can assume the opposite is true, that this is an imaginary situation and that she didn't have a cell phone and she couldn't call me. I am simply imagining with this sentence what could have happened if she had had her cell phone. And here, again, I used a different model. I used the model could, and could basically expresses ability. So basically, it's like saying that if she had had her cell phone, she would have been able to call me, but in reality, she couldn't because she didn't. And the final thing to remember about conditional sentences, any conditional sentence, is that typically we have a condition, a result, a condition, a result. But we can change the order. We can actually put the result first and the condition second. So going back to the first example, I can also say that I wouldn't have failed the test if I had studied. So the condition is first, but it doesn't matter, the result is first, but it doesn't matter. In the result, you use would have and a past participle, and in the condition, you use the past perfect, had plus a past participle.